Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and today I'm talking about something you may or may not have heard of, but you probably don't remember. This is the Sega Nomad. So, the Sega Nomad is more or less a portable Sega Genesis. And I have to clarify what I mean by that. It is a handheld game console that has a built-in full-color screen and a speaker and a controller, 6-button controller, that can play Sega Genesis cartridges. And it does have a TV out connection to hook it up to your TV. However, it has some obvious limitations that prevent it from being a fully functioning legit replacement for a proper Sega Genesis home console. For starters, it is not compatible with any of the add-ons. So you cannot hook up a Sega CD, obviously, or a 32X, or a power-based converter, which means you are cut off from the Master System library, the 32X library, and the Sega CD library. So in that regards, you can use it. You can hook it up to your TV and use it as a replacement for a Genesis. Insofar as if you're only interested in 16-bit Genesis games, but if you're a Genesis fan like I am, the Genesis itself is so much more than just the Genesis library. It is the 32X. It is the Sega CD. It is the power-based converter, etc., etc. Now, as far as handhelds go, the Sega Nomad was not ideal for a lot of reasons. One, it's gigantic, it's huge, and it's heavy. Now, standard, the Sega Nomad uses, I believe, AA batteries, and it eats the shit out of them. It just drains them solid. You can get maybe an hour and a half out of a full complement of AA batteries in the back. Now, it does have a couple of alternatives to this. You can get a special rechargeable battery pack that allows it to use specific types of rechargeable batteries. Not a rechargeable battery per se, but it allows it to accept rechargeable batteries, but those have to be recharged separately from the console. The other alternative is it has an AC out. You can plug it into the wall and power it that way. And like I said, you can hook it up to a TV, and you can use it as a replacement or a supplement to your Sega Genesis, an alternative, if you will. The Sega Nomad was a very expensive handheld, and it was very short-lived. I got my Sega Nomad in 2003, and I sold mine in 2007. So I didn't even have mine for very long. Now, I remember getting a newspaper job, delivering newspapers after school in 1996, the year the Nomad came out, with the express intended purpose of saving up my newspaper money to buy a Nomad because I really wanted one, even though I already had a Genesis and a Super Nintendo by that time. Needless to say, I did not end up buying the Sega Nomad with my newspaper money. I got sidetracked by Marvel Overpower, which is where all my money went, and trading cards like D&D, Spellfire, things like that. The Star Wars customizable card game that came out in the 90s and things like that. So I sunk all my newspaper money into a handful of Transformers toys, some Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo cartridges, and a whole lot of trading cards. When I did get a Sega Nomad, I did buy the AC adapter and the rechargeable battery pack. However, my Nomad had a crack in the screen. It was a hole about this big, right in the middle of the screen. So most games weren't easily playable in handheld mode because there was a big old hole in the middle of the screen. So the action was blurred. So this made playing games in handheld mode very, very difficult. I already had a Genesis and a Sega CD and a 32X. I had the complete set by this point. So it didn't behoove me to hook it up to the TV and use it as a Genesis because I already had an alternative to that. I didn't really need it for that purposes. So I just ended up throwing it on eBay and selling it as is with broken crack and all. And washed my hands of it. So I had a Nomad for a couple of years and then I got rid of it. But I didn't have an enjoyable experience the whole time I had the Nomad. So my question is twofold. Question one, do you remember or did you have a Sega Nomad? And question two is, what were or are your experiences with the Sega Nomad? So have at it in the comments. Stay cool.